On this episode of ResiWeek, Google is headed to CEDIA. We talk about art-covered subwoofers and where does HDBaseT fit into the home market. All that and more next on ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by FSR and by Draper.
This is ResiWeek, episode 81, recorded Monday, August 21st, 2017. Eclipsing the mid-market.
This is ResiWeek.
This is ResiWeek, your weekly look at the residential market for the audio-video industry. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host, filling in for the vacationing Mr. Matt Scott. With us to talk about all things residential, first and foremost, his name is Jason Knott, and he's a chief muckety-muck over at CE Pro. How are you, sir?
Well, today I'm Jace Knott of the CE Pro Action News team. It's great to be here.
If you're not watching the video, Jason is dressed up as a member of the Action Team News for CE Pro for their coverage of CEDIA, which will be in San Diego. So you're Jason Knott.
Yes, and as I remind you, it's pronounced San Diego, not San Diego, as you may have heard elsewhere. Of course, we all know it's named after the famed inventor of the Eggo waffle, Mr. Sandy Eggo.
Oh, jeez Louise. All right. You're just going to play this out. All right. Also with us from TDG Audio. Easy for me to say, but his name is Jeff Francisco. Jason's got me all tongue-tied. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Good. We are actually recording this on Monday, August 21st. So all of us have our Eclipse glasses here. I'm not going to wear them, but yeah, that was an interesting experience. So, all right, let's get this kicked off here. First and foremost, we're going to talk about a couple of different stories from CEDIA. The first one actually comes to us from CE Pro. Google is coming to CEDIA. Not for nothing, but a couple of years ago, they purchased a little company called Nest. This is not Nest's first time. Let's be clear about that. This is, though, Google's first time. Quote, unquote, it's the first time we've done something like this together for the Pro channel, and I think it's telling that we choose to do it at CEDIA. That's Gene Lanoy from Nest Pro. Jason, I'm just going to come out and ask the question. It's your guys' story. How big of a deal is this that it's Google and Nest together at CEDIA?
Well, it's funny you should use that word because, I'm kind of a big deal.
You are kind of a big
but
deal.
This is even a bigger deal than me. But, bigger picture, I look at this as this is where I believe you're already seeing this battle between the luxury market and what I call the mid-tier market. And this is kind of, I believe, where the future of CEDIA is going to end up going. You're going to see the Honeywells, the Sonos, the Logitechs, the Apples, the Amazons, the Google Nest there, because there is going to be this battle for the mid-market with the professional installation angle to it. And that what we call the do-it-for-me space, so to speak. And so I think it's going to be even more so with Emerald as the new owners of the show, because they're not going to niche this show as a luxury high-end market, and then they're all about getting the booth space. So they're going to be about getting the booth space. They're going to want to be attracting those companies I mentioned. So I think this is a big deal, and I think it's really a glimpse of what you're going to see even down the road with CEDIA in general, especially knowing Emerald, the new owners, also own the KBiz show and the Kitchen and Bath Association show. I see a lot of builder-oriented products. I see a lot more mid-tier products like this being introduced into the show with the new ownership.
So you're saying that because the Emerald is the new owner, you're going to see more stuff like this?
I agree. Yep, I believe that.
All right. Jeff, same kind of question to you. How big of a deal is a company like Google coming to CEDIA?
Well, I think it's a pretty big deal. And I think one of the things it does is it reflects really the change in our market and the products that the CEDIA channel provides being more, quote, mainstream. So the consumers of our industry right now that we're selling to, it used to be you take a DAC 5-10 years ago, they wouldn't know companies that really, by name, that provided the technologies that were going to be incorporated into their house. I think now there's a bit of an expectation. Oh, Google, Apple, Amazon. There's an expectation that those are the providers that are going to provide the technology that's going to go into their new home or the remodel or the opportunities they have, or they enhance their home and their lifestyle. So I think it's actually kind of a merging of the two worlds. The consumers have that. The big guys like Google realize that, and it's pushing into our channel in a mainstream way, and it's the reality. Because I think that a lot of this is going to be pulled by our consumers that are using the technology.
There was a New York Times article a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you guys saw it. It said how to create a smart home.
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing it said, pick your voice control first. It said pick whether you're Apple, Amazon, or Google, and then go from there, which is interesting. So that's, to your point, Jeff, that's where it's heading.
Well, and Jeff, real quickly, you mentioned the mass market, the brand recognition that a lot of these brands bring. Apple, Google, Facebook, all of these. Is that a good thing for the show and for the market, or is that something that takes away and suddenly makes CEDIA more about these big tech brands and less about some of the smaller established custom installation?
I think it's a good thing. Okay. Because of course the small percentage of the market that, let's face it, it is a small percentage of the market that we serve with these products are always going to be there. There's always going to be the ability to give them very customized solutions. But in the raising tide, or the tide raises all boats scenario, this is really going to bring awareness of what's going on within the home and the possibilities to a broader market. And I think that's good for everyone. And then it opens up the conversation for the integrator to have. And if there's probably a better solution in a lot of cases other than, whatever Google Home's solution is. And that would be an opportunity for the custom, in the custom integrator to say, yeah, Google's great, but you know what? Let me tell you about this other solution I have right here. I can integrate this with it, but this will be better. So, I think it's a good thing.
All right, very good. Moving on here, we talk about speakers and subs and artwork all together in one fell swoop. This is from Residential Systems. Stealth brings sub bass to Image 3 on-wall art speakers. Quote unquote, this on-wall subwoofer with unprecedented finishing customization allows installers to meet client aesthetics expectations for a design-specific visual outcome while providing subwoofer bass audio response in a home media room or corporate installation. If you're not watching the video, it's a sub. It's an on-wall sub that you can have custom art put on it. Jeff, first question, it's pretty basic. Stuff like this has been around for a while. Are coverings for speakers and covering, whether it's a sub or it's a higher end, higher frequency speaker, art covering speakers, is this practical in a home installation, or is it just something kind of a niche market?
This kind of falls into what I call a niche of a niche.
Okay.
And it really is something that in certain markets is more popular than others. In Europe, products like this tend to be a bit more popular because there's less options to install loudspeakers into the walls or the ceilings, and the living spaces are such that people don't really want a lot of freestanding products. And it's also maybe a problem solver. This is where the custom integrator, once again, he's a custom guy. If there's a good solution for something like this, or an opportunity, it can be good. You got cement walls, brick walls, that location where someone wants a lot of sound, but they can't install something. So I think it's a valid solution, but I don't think it's, these things have been around for a long time, and no one's asking me for them, I'll tell you that. And I've been in the business a long time.
And that right there, honestly, that right there is telling, right? If you haven't been asked for that in a while, that right there is kind of telling. Jason, same kind of question. Is stuff like this, like Jeff said, a niche of a niche, or is it something where, whether it's an interior designer or if a house is big enough, you're going to have an architect also involved, where these folks in the aesthetics kind of come into play, and they're like, well, at least in the commercial side, I don't want to see speakers, right? This is something that a lot of from the commercial side, you'll hear back from architects and interior designers. They don't want to see the speakers. So is something like this kind of make sense?
Well, first of all, as Jason Knott, I have to note that the only thing I know about bass is I think one date I might have gotten to second base, but I'm not really even sure if I did or not.
We'll be here all week, folks.
Yeah, but it's a nice option. But to Jeff's point, I would kind of, he obviously knows a hell of a lot more about audio. Is as an enthusiast or even a run-of-the-mill customer gonna question something that goes to 35 hertz is actually being bass, whereas a lot of people don't think that starts until 30 or 25, and this I noticed goes to 35. What are your thoughts on that? Is it real bass?
35 is actually pretty good. I mean, it's, once again, there's, most people, when you ask them what they perceive as bass, it's much higher than 20. I mean, down at 20 is the visceral, I want to throw up because it's vibrating every, cell in my body kind of frequencies. At 35, you'd be hard pressed to find but a few people that would say it's not great bass, especially if it has, decent output at that level.
Yeah, and then I think it's certainly a viable product. As you mentioned, Tim, the aesthetics of the product is really what it's all about. This is one of those that, it's similar to this whole invisible trend and this design trend that we're seeing, from keypads to speakers to everything.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is giving again, interior designers and giving custom installers the ability to not hide the tech, but make it more aesthetic, right?
Yeah.
Make it more appeasable to the folks that are worried about, your touch panel clashing with your drapes and such like that. So, all right, another CEDIA story here real quick. We're going to talk about Wirestorm and HDBaseT for a second. Wirestorm is actually bringing 30 new HDBaseT, HDMI and AV over IP products. This comes to us also from CE Pro. Jason, when it comes to specifically HDBaseT, where are they at in the residential market as far as video transport? I know a couple of years ago they started coming out with their PoE products that allows installers to send not just video but also a small amount of power over the Ethernet that they're running. Where are they at in the residential market?
I think the whole multi-room AV distribution space is really going to turn to the AV over IP area. Okay. And I think this is just kind of a leading edge of what you're going to see, with that a lot of products that guys that have been out for years are going to be obsolete as the AV over IP trend even grows even stronger. To HDBaseT, it's a very good question. I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert there. To know how they're going to, what's going to happen with that particular technology. But I do expect the one thing that everybody's going to see tons of at CEDIA is AV over IP products.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that, because it's CEDIA and Infocom and ISE actually tend to run neck and neck, right? The technologies that you're going to see at one, you're going to see at the other, and we've been seeing that, especially at ISE, for the last couple of years. This year at Infocom, it seemed to be that was one of the main stories. Was not saying everybody and their brother had an IP solution, but a lot of folks had various versions of AV over IP. Jeff, same kind of question to you. Where do you feel that HDBaseT falls in the residential market?
Well, once again, I'm going to have to a little bit go where Jason went, in that I'm not an expert in HDBaseT, but as far as AV over IP, I mean, I've been a really strong believer in that for years. In a past life at Speakercraft, I implemented the use of CobraNet, which is really the first legitimate use of audio over IP. And at that time, I could see the broadcast possibilities of it, and really the idiocy of a matrix switcher. and the opportunities provided by IP solutions. So I mean, it's any solution that gives the integrator a standards-based format that's IP-based, I think is a good thing. And as you alluded to, that integration also in that crossover between our market in the residential space and I think the commercial market, all those same technologies and abilities are really being driven together as the residential market becomes more tech savvy and the needs we have become more complex. It makes a lot of sense. I'll tip the hat a little bit here, and if you stop by the Da Vinci Group booth at 3545, we will be actually, getting some feedback and showing a little bit of interesting technology in the audio over IP space. So, we will be one of those people having something at the show.
All right, very good. Jason, real quick, I want to kind of wrap this around to one of the stories we had first. Does this move to AV over IP and the video and the audio both over the network? Does this help that whole do it with me market that we've been talking about for a couple of years now, or does it push up against it to where folks who maybe traditionally can do most of the stuff in their house, and then they hire an integrator to come in and do maybe the fine tuning or some of the higher end stuff or the more complicated stuff, or does it completely supplant that and go, well, to where most do it yourselfers can't do the AV over IP?
I think it helps it because it brings the cost price point down from this massive switcher with a million things in the back of it to so it basically opens up the idea of multi-room AV distribution to a much bigger space. Whether the DIY element to it, I think ultimately, hopefully, it helps this channel, but it's going to be that rising tide raises all ships, because there are going to be a lot more people who can afford to do something like this because they're going to be using IP versus having to buy a big matrix switcher.
A big, 16 by 16 or 32 by 32 switcher, yeah. And then running, some version of twisted pair or fiber throughout the house. So, yeah. All right, guys, last story here. It's not inherently residential AV, but oh my gosh, is it going to have some impact on us? From entrepreneur.com, Apple is reportedly budgeting $1 billion with a B dollars for original programming over the course of the next year. I want to be specific here. This is what they're going to spend over the next year for original programming. To put that into context, HBO spent about $2 billion in the last year. But this is Apple, not HBO, and not even, I would even say not even Amazon, right? Amazon spent about $1 billion, I want to say it was in 2014 and 2015, on original programming. HBO, the company that brings you Game of Thrones and incredibly expensive programming, spent twice that much. Jeff, when it comes to all this push to get content delivered to the house, right? And this is all about streaming, right? This is not Apple creating their own network or their own satellite company. This is going to be streamed to the home. Is Apple too late, I guess, is the first question here, and how big of an impact are they going to be able to have at this stage of the game when you have so many other players?
Well, I'm no expert in this part of the business, but I would say, first of all, I don't think Apple's too late. I mean, Apple's got a lot of smart people pounding keyboards, a lot of smart management, and best of all, they have a lot of money. So, they have the ability to make things happen as they wish. And part of this, I imagine, is everyone wants to drive users to their platform and their ecosystem, right? So by having their own content, I imagine this is Apple's way of driving people to their Apple solutions.
Yeah, Jason, same kind of question here, and he mentioned the infrastructure and the ecosystem. Apple is the Apple TV is one of the more popular platforms for non-cable box, video content delivery. Is this kind of their play to say, what, we're a player in this market, and to sell more Apple TVs and to sell more iDevices?
Yeah, I mean, I think they've lost their mojo a bit, so I'm excited to see them do something. You know, they talk about the 1950s being the golden age of TV. Right now is the golden age of TV. I
Yes,
mean,
brother.
every week there's some sort of a new program that I'm discovering that is like phenomenal through whether it's, you know, original programming from Netflix or whomever. So, and Disney's going to do their own deal now.
Yep.
And so I think this is phenomenal, but I will comment, you know, I was talking to Jace Knott about this, and Jace Knott was looking at their first two programs, which were a Gwyneth Paltrow show on apps and a carpool karaoke show. And all he could think of is that hit song by that wonderful group, the Osmonds, One Bad Apple. And, you know, someday I think they're going to be as big as the Beatles. And you better watch that Donnie and Marie. They've got quite a future ahead of them. But so far, I would define the two programs that they've come out with as two bad apples.
I would absolutely agree with that. And if you're in Vegas, absolutely, Donnie and Marie is a force to be reckoned with. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. Mr. Jace Knott or Jason Knott, whichever one of you wants to talk to me. Thank you so much. And how do people find you and the entire action team at CEDIA?
The entire news action team is going to be in CE Pro's booth 2420 doing live interviews all day Thursday and all day Friday. We actually have a special fireside chat we're doing with Google and Nest.
Nice.
In their booth on Friday at 11:30. So make sure you check out that. And you can follow me on Twitter at jknott at ehpub. Or at Jason W. Knott. It's my Twitter. My email is jknott@ehpub.com, or just see me on cepro.com. And I want to say I'm honored to be with Jeff Francisco on this because I'm very, very, very close friends with his brother, San Francisco.
Of course. Man, he's got a million of them. All right,
Yeah.
Jeff, thank you so much. How do people find you or the Da Vinci Group at CEDIA, sir?
They can find the Da Vinci Group at CEDIA at booth 3545, right next to Amazon's booth.
Nice.
You can find us on Facebook at TDG Audio, and you can reach me personally at my email is jfrancisco@tdgaudio.com.
All right, very good. For me, if you want to follow me on the Twitters, it's TD Tim David Albright on the Twitters, but don't do that. Go by the website if you would please, avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Also, while you are there, please check out our underwriter section. These are the folks that help us out and support us and help allow us to do things like go to CEDIA and go by the Da Vinci Group and probably shadow and stalk the news action team from CE Pro. So we'll be bringing you that in about 3 weeks now, live from San Diego. So check all that out at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. This has been ResiWeek.